Happy football season, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and Mac Lane podcast, presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and Mac Lane. Mac, actually, it's always football season on the Gramlich and Mac Lane podcast, so that lead-in is a little misleading. And also, Mac, you could say good evening to our Stanford fans who, if they're tuning in right when this episode releases, it might be evening wherever they are.
How many hours away is this? No one knows. We can't do the math. We can't coordinate our times. But one thing I do know is Stanford Cardinal, you're on the clock. Let's go.
Mac just wanted to say that.
I just wanted to get it in again.
I like it.
Just wanted to say it one more time.
We got to say it. We got to go with that. But we're talking Stanford. Welcome to the ACC. Stanford fans, if you missed our, our Stanford kind of recap, go check that out. We did that maybe April, Mac? I'm trying to think.
Time zones and years, who knows? It's just a long time ago. No one knows.
We do have a little Stanford content already on the page, but today is where we really get into it. We have head coach Troy Taylor on. Mac, I enjoyed talking with him. I feel like he fits Stanford. Like that is a match made in heaven, and he understands what he's going to have to do at Stanford in this current world, in this new climate. So I enjoyed talking with him once we got our Pacific time coordination figured out.
We did, and it was his son's birthday when we talked to him. So he took time out of that celebration to hang out with us. It was so much fun. I pleasantly enjoyed that as well. We ended up talking for a long time and just about his life and his thoughts, and then dove into the football team as well, as you guys will hear here in a second. Last year, Stanford, it was, not the best year, tough year, but there was some highlights where you beat Colorado in a double overtime thriller.
Crazy game.
KG, I remember I was watching that game. Colorado is blowing them out, and we went to dinner or we were getting home from work, something, and I get home and I'm just like, what is happening? What is going on here? These guys just explode, and it was crazy to see. And then, of course, just the rest of the season unfolds the way it does, and it's going to be interesting to see where do they go from here. Love this conversation with Coach. Let's jump into this, and we'll talk to you on the other side.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have Energy Smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Troy Taylor, great to see you, brother. Welcome to the ACC. It's great to see you. Great to have you in the league.
We're excited to be joining the ACC, and it's gonna be a fun ride.
It surely is, and we're excited as well. This episode's going to be a little bit different because we're welcoming you here, and we want to have all our fans get to know you and get to know your team here. So we're going to dive in a little bit and I want to talk about your career, because to me it is amazing to really see it, how you started in high school, then you jumped up to Power 5, and then you went back to high school to become an AD, and then go do radio for a couple of years, get back to high school, and now ended up at the head coach of Stanford. How about that journey? I mean, it's pretty incredible to see that laid out the way it is.
Yeah, it's definitely the road less traveled, for sure. I always knew I wanted to be, from the age of 7, I wanted to play football and coach football. That's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. So I really kind of thought it would be coaching at the high school level. It was really important to me that even at a young age, I wanted to be a great husband and a great dad. And, college football, as you guys know, you got to move around a lot. There's some late hours, those type of things. And so when I got through playing football, I went back to my hometown, Sacramento, and I started working on my teaching credential. And I was an offense coordinator at a high school. I met my wife at that time, and we were sitting watching some football, and she said, "Hey, have you ever thought about coaching in college?" And I go, not really. I kind of I want to be a dad and a good father or a good husband and all those things. And she said, well, you should think about it now while you're young, and that way you don't wonder later. And so I'm like, great advice. So I got a hold of a guy named Rick Neuheisel, who was the head coach at the University of Colorado, that I kind of knew a little bit. And he hired me as a graduate assistant coach. And so I was there, unbelievable guy. I worked with him and Carl Durrell and a lot of good people, and was there for a year. And then Steve Mariucci became the head coach at Cal, and Steve was the wide receiver coach when I was a player at Cal. And so I had kept in contact with him. So he hires me back to Cal. And I was there for 4 years. And then my wife and I, we had gotten married, and we decided we wanted to have a family. And so we decided to go back to Sacramento. So I actually kind of started in college football, went back to Sacramento, and became head coach at a place called Folsom High School. And
What
there.
was that conversation like? Sorry to interrupt, but I mean, that's crazy to go backwards. Once you
Yeah,
get
and
there.
I got that. Yeah, I got that a lot. It was like people would kind of look at me like, "Oh, okay." There was no like, "Well, congratulations." It was like,
Right.
it was kind of like, "Dude, what are you doing?" But if you look at my resume, and you can see that money has made no factor in any of my decisions. I love coaching football. It doesn't matter really the level. I just wanted to be able to kind of have a full life. And then after being at Folsom and kind of accomplished all the things we wanted to, I wanted a new challenge. My kids were older. And so I mentioned to Chris Peterson, who had been recruiting my quarterback, Jake Browning, at Washington. And I had always really admired Coach Pete, but got to know him through the recruiting process. And only person literally I mentioned it to, besides my wife, I said, "Hey, Coach, I'm thinking about getting back into college football. What do you think of that?" And so he gave me a little feedback. And about a week later, I get a call from Bo Baldwin, who was the head coach at Eastern Washington, kind of an FCS power at the time. And he calls me and says, "Hey, I have an OC job open. Chris Peterson told me that you're the only guy I need to interview." So I listened to Coach Pete. Bo Baldwin comes out to Folsom, and we talk football for like 5 hours, and he offers me the job. And so I go to my wife. It's really exciting, right? Until the fact that I have to tell my wife that I would be taking a 2/3 pay cut to go up to Washington, to Washington. And her reaction wasn't quite like yours. It wasn't a laugh. It was kind of like when I was telling people I was going from college to high school, And so she paused, looked over my left shoulder, and then looked back at me and said, "Okay, how would that work? Like how would we eat and all those things?"
Right.
And so
How
I'm
would
like,
we eat?
yeah. So I'm like, "Okay, this is what we do." Our house was almost paid off in Sacramento. It was only like 6 months left. And we'll sell our house. We'll go up there. And she could have easily squashed it right there because it was totally understandable. And she goes, "You know what? I believe in you. Let's do it."
Wow.
And so we gave ourselves 5 years to be a head coach at the college level. And I was very fortunate. Eastern Washington had an unbelievable program. A lot of things were already set in place. I mean, they had won a national championship not that long ago. I had no idea who Cooper Kupp was. I went up there, and he was a senior. He was a senior wide receiver. Kendrick Bourne, who
How
still played
quickly did you find out who Cooper Kupp
really
was?
quickly. Started watching tape, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, this guy's really good." And then there was Kendrick Bourne, who's still playing. He was another one of our wide receivers. He's incredible. And we didn't really have a set quarterback. We had lost our whole line, but there was a really good quarterback there, Gage Gubrud, who was a walk-on, and we earned a scholarship, and we had an unbelievable year. We came one play from playing for the national championship, and then Utah came and went up there, and we won the Pac-12 South my last year there, and then Sac State came, and I had another one of those moments where people were trying to figure out what I did. I left Utah to go to Sacramento State because they had never won a conference championship, in football. I think they were 1-10 the year before we got there, and people thought of it as a really bad job. And another huge pay cut from Utah to Sacramento State. But again, I wanted to be a head coach. I wanted to be able to drive the culture, and to me, those things were really, really important. And had a lot of success at Sac State, and then here I am at Stanford. So that's kind of that's the road less traveled, but I wouldn't change it. People always, ironically, and I know it's a long answer, but ironically, I kind of thought when I left college football to go to high school that I was going to just dominate. And because I had this pedigree of college, and I went there, and first 3 years were like 15-15. We weren't very good. And I was like, wow, I'm a really bad loser. So it's like, I can't keep doing this if I'm going to lose like this. And it's really at the high school level that I learned how to coach.
Wow.
How to, because you get what you get in terms of players, and you got to develop them. And that's why I think I'm positioned nicely for this job, because we're a developmental program. We're not bringing in, a bunch of guys from the transfer portal. We got to get them better from freshman to sophomore to junior. And that's what I've done my whole life, and build strong cultures. So, my route is definitely different, but It's been fun.
Wow, that's an incredible story. Shout out to your wife. Sounds like she's the real
Big shout out.
MVP there.
Yes,
And of course,
it really
now you're the
is.
head coach of Stanford. Okay, before we dive into, because I love what you're saying there about being a developmental program, college athletics, so different right now, but we'll get into that. You did play at Cal. You kind of glossed over that. You held some records. Jared Goff maybe passed one or two of them. So is that weird for you at all? Like, be honest, you're wearing all this Stanford stuff. Mac and I aren't super familiar, but that's a rivalry there. Like, what's that like?
Yeah. It's a great rivalry. It's one of those rivalry where there's a lot of respect and admiration. Okay. So, Cal just hired, their basketball coach. Madsen was a Stanford guy. So I think that shows that there's admiration for the university for each other. So it is a little strange on game day for sure, but quickly, you get used to competing. It quickly becomes a faceless kind of, opponent. So not too bad. I still root for Cal every week of the year, except when we're playing them. That's all. So I really love the university. I love the school. It's a big reason where I'm at, just because of my growth. As you guys know, when you're in college, it's where you change and you learn and you see different things in different ways. And Cal will always be that place for me. That has never changed, and I still have a lot of people that I love and care for that work there.
Right, and they're coming with you, coming in the league with you. So it's you get to stay with them. You get to stay apart and bring that over with you. Coach, one thing that I love everything that you were just saying right there, and this is informative to us too, right? This is the first time we're meeting and learning each other. How do you implement as the head coach for your staff your thoughts? Because I was around a great figure as well, like in Coach Dabo Sweeney, and the things that we saw firsthand. Like, football is very important, but he was so much more interested in developing us as men, as citizens, as husbands, fathers. And, the things that we saw him do with his staff were the greatest lessons of that. I mean, there was a practice where a defensive back coach had his son's first baseball game. He said, "Get out of here. What are you doing? Go do that." So how do you implement those things that are important to you, to your staff, so they have that same type of understanding?
Well, I think the first thing is you hire people that are like-minded. Not exactly, you don't want clones of yourself. That would be bad. But guys that and women in the program that really believe, in essence, the same thing. So for me, if you look over my shoulder, those are like the four things that have helped me to be successful. So those are the four things of our program. Like love. I love football. I love coaching football. I love thinking about it and be around it. I love our players. I love the camaraderie of being together in a group. So for me, love is the most powerful force in the world, and fear is its counterpart, right? But and some people tell you fear is more powerful than love, and they got a good argument, but I would run into a burning building for my children. So I know love is more powerful than fear. So I want to hire guys that love football. I did it for free as a high school coach, right? For a really long time. They paid me $2,500 stipend, right, to coach football. So, I love it, right? So I'm looking for coaches on my staff and people that work in our building that would do it for free as well. They can't, but they would if they could. And so that kind of drives it all. Do I want them to be smart and competitive? Yeah, but I want them to be really good people that have the right spirit about them. So that's kind of the starting point. And then the rest of it is just try to lead by example. Like I said, those things over my shoulder, being mindful and grateful and competitive. I just got to live those every day. And when I'm doing those things, I'm at my best and I'm a great leader. If I'm not doing those things, if I'm not grateful and I'm not mindful, I'm not really good for anybody. So I need to stay away from my people as much as I can. Now, sometimes that's not possible. So you got to reach down deep and you got to be grateful and you got to be mindful and you got to live those things. Now, those are more challenging when you're struggling and you're early in a program's development. That's where it's really tested. Really easy to be a great leader when you're winning, right? It's when things are at the early parts and you're challenged that it really calls upon that fortitude and those things. And so it's a great opportunity to show those things. So I just try to live them, but it's really about the people, hiring the right people, and then recruiting the right student athletes. We have no desire to bring in entitled student athletes here that don't like football, and they like recruiting more than they like football. They think they deserve everything, and we're just we don't attract players like that. So we attract guys that really feel like they're lucky to be here, and that they're going to work for everything they possibly can, and they're going to earn it. And that's kind of how we do it. That's what I've done it everywhere. It's been about culture, continuity, and development, really. The culture part we just talked about. Continuity is keeping the same people in the building. I do not think it's a great thing when people are leaving. So, we retained our entire coaching staff. So a big part of that for me is to make it a great experience for the coaches, so that they can go spend time with their kids and their family, that they can enjoy the work environment, that I'm not going to be, up and down depending on how we're playing, that I'm going to be really consistent, and it's going to be a great life experience for them. My goal is for all of our coaches to feel like this was the greatest experience they've had as a coach in their life. And so those are the type of things. And then we touched on the development. So we really keep focused on those three things. And I feel, and those are timeless principles, love and being grateful and mindful. And those aren't new concepts. But that's what's driving our program, and that's what I've used my whole life. So I'm going to stick with it.
Love it, Coach. That's very well said. We're going to dive into your team and some of your returning players. I want to ask this, though, because Stanford, I see it as a national, arguably international brand. Everyone knows Stanford. And you guys Stanford itself has always kind of recruited nationally. You think of Andrew Luck's from Texas and different players like that. So how do you feel like that fits into Stanford going into the ACC? Does much change for you besides travel, that's of course a thing, but does that change much for Stanford and how you recruit and how you develop and how you do things like that?
Yeah, I think it's a very astute question, because we only signed in our last 24 class 5 kids from California, right? And California is a huge state with a lot of really good players. So, we're recruiting unicorns, right? Guys that are incredible students and incredible athletes. And in order to do that, we've got to span the globe, right? We have 4 or 5 Canadians. Now they played football mostly in the East Coast, through prep schools, but that Atlantic coast is fertile ground for us. It's been the majority of our players, in the last recruiting class are right up the coast. So I think it fits perfectly with us. I think it does impact recruiting, because when you're talking to parents and families, you tell them, hey, we're going to travel out here 3 times every year, that you're going to be able to see your son play. And so I think it helps us in recruiting. Everybody's excited about the conference. Now, I am sensitive to the fact that other sports, it's going to be challenging, that play more games than 3. But for us as a football program, 3 games going across the country, it's not the end of the world. We travel very well. Our guys are taken care of. There'll be some challenges, the time adjustment and all those things, but we can overcome those.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting just to see all those, like you said, the time and the early starts and how do you get acclimated to all those things. But I'm sure you'll have a great plan in place there. Let's jump into your team a little bit here, Coach, because just looking at these guys and, again, giving a real preview to all of our fans and what they're going to see and who they're going to see, with Stanford coming into the league here. And starting with your quarterback room, I know you returned 2 guys that were very impactful and helpful and useful to your team with Daniels and Lamson there. So just break that down, because as we're watching tape and we're studying you guys up, you utilize both and obviously one much more as a runner. What's kind of your mindset with that room?
Yeah, I like our room. You're right. We did have 2 guys that played last year a lot. And so we feel great about that. There was improvement made in that room throughout the season and in the off season here in spring football that I'm really excited. And then we've, added Elijah Brown, who was, at Mater Dei High School and was an incredible player at that level and is an incredible talent. And I think he's going to be a great player. And Miles Jackson, who came in the year before, and Charlie Meyer. So we have a great group. I really feel, quarterback's one of those situations where it takes time to develop them. And that's my job, and that's our job as a program. And we'll see how it all plays out. Also, the fact with quarterbacks, they're like tea bags. You really don't know what you got till you put them in hot water, right? So it's like really who they are seeing when you get them in live action. It's different than any other sport. You got to see what those guys can do when the lights come on, and it's a different environment. So, but I love our room. We're continuing to do a really good job in recruiting in that area. And again, it's about develop them, building the system around them so that they feel comfortable and confident. so that they can and really display, the kind of their natural abilities and instincts.
Yeah, and I'm sure your quarterback room loves your wide receiver room because you've got some players there with a guy like Ian Manor, who, by the way, from Massachusetts, well, Canadian, but played in Massachusetts, which is just what you're talking about.
Right.
And then Tiger Bachmeyer, who I think has one of the best names of all time. Those two guys are really special. Yeah. And I think I'm assuming something y'all can really build around going into this season.
Yeah, young guys that played last year, and Io Manor was somebody that, you saw him really emerge as the season went on after the knee brace came off and his confidence level went up. You really saw that he could be spectacular. Then Tiger was a guy that's very competitive, got great ball skills, and made an impact as a freshman. Now, he came in as a mid-year, which was very helpful. And then we have a kid named Emmett Mosley, who's an incredible talent, who's another mid-year this year that came in. A very talented young man that we're really excited about. And there's another number of other guys. But yeah, feel good about that room. And it's just they just continue to grow and get better. I think the sky's the limit.
Yeah, it's hard to not think of that Colorado game when you think of Alec and just how insane he went that game. I mean, 13 catches for almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. What is that like as a play caller, as a coach, when you have a dude that just seems like he can do no wrong? Like, just close your eyes, throw it. He's coming down with it. Was it like a video game? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was very interesting because in the early part of the game, he kind of misplayed a ball that would have been a touchdown. And I was really concerned that he was kind of going to go in the tank. And I remember walking over to him and going, "Hey, are you all right?" And he's like, "No, I'm fine, coach." And then, all of his catches came in the second half. So like he did that all in one half, which was pretty amazing. But yeah, you could just see, people talk about it, how important confidence is. And shoot, confidence is important in what you guys do. If you're not confident, it's going to show, right? So you could see it growing as the game went on, to where at the end he felt like he was unstoppable, and he was right. And he's one of those kids, he doesn't really display it, but you can feel it. He's not a super talkative young man. He's very thoughtful, but he's super competitive. But that was great to see. He had just come out of his knee brace, I guess about 6 or 7 days prior to that.
Great timing.
And,
great timing.
It was great timing. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think he felt a little bit more free, and it was a fun game.
Yeah, I love that, man. How about overall big picture with the offense before we dive into maybe one or two more position groups here? Like, what is the perfect deal for you? Because, I know you said developmental program, and I get that and understand it. And, we're great friends with Dave Clawson at Wake Forest, and, the things that they do there, and heard from him, hey, we probably wouldn't do this if we were somewhere else, but where we are and the things that we have to do with the slow mesh or the hang and bang, things of that nature. So ideally, I mean, do you want to air it out? Or you West Coast guy? What's kind of the best thing for you in regards to what this thing looks like when it's at high tempo?
Yeah, I think a couple of answers to that is, one, I don't care if we're running a lot or throwing. It's just as long as we're scoring points and moving the ball. But that being said, I think typically, we'll hopefully be a pretty balanced team. Now, last year, we had lost, when I took the job, we lost 17. Well, they lost 5 guys to the NFL draft, and then we lost 17 transfer portal guys, 13 of them which were starters. 6 of them were offensive linemen that started elsewhere in the Power 4. So we played with some really young guys. And Stanford is an unbelievable place. It's just not a place where you're going to be able to quick flip it. So you're not going to be able to bring in transfer portal guys and replace guys that you've lost, right? And that's okay. I don't want to live in that world. I want to develop high school players. With that being said, we just played with guys that really hadn't played much up front. And so we had to do some different things in terms of protection and stuff, but I feel a lot better this year about their development and their confidence and their skills. We're still early in the process. We will be better for sure, and we'll be more confident in the system. So with the system, I did have to tweak it quite a bit last year to try and help our guys out a little bit. So I think you'll see it kind of grow and morph slowly into what I've done in the past, which is a mixture of tempo and normal pace, to quarterback run game, to RPO, to being an empty, mixing in tempo, and just being very dynamic and trying to create as much anxiety as possible for the other side.
Yeah, I think people forget because you're reminding me now all those people that left Stanford. Like, I'm remembering now before you got there, of course, Coach, and that's tough.
Yeah.
Like And you're not a program that can go through the portal. And it's funny because I do a lot of women's basketball stuff, and I was talking to some people at Notre Dame, and they said, we really try to get grad transfers because we can't get them into school in undergrad. And now without a COVID year, and that's starting to go away, it just feels like the transfer portal isn't really, feasible for a place like Stanford. There are certain exceptions, but is that kind of the way you see it? Like, this can't really help us mainly because of who we are. We're Stanford.
No, you're right. And then different from Notre Dame, we can't really get grad transfers in. So, so, we've gotten, I think, one grad transfer in. So it's got to be the perfect kid. They've got to be an exceptional student out of high school and done a great job in college. And then they got to be good enough to play for us. And then those guys typically are very highly recruited out of the transfer portal. And there are a lot of other, elements to the transfer portal where it's kind of the highest bidder, which there are some schools that have a lot of ammo in regards to that. Now, for us, I really don't want to be a program that brings in free agents every year, and 20, 30 guys, maybe a couple would be great. But I really want to bring in freshmen, or high school players to develop as freshmen and sophomores. So I want to live in that world. I think it's the best way to build a sustainable model. I know you can do it the other way. I've seen it. We've all seen it, but I just feel this is the best way to do it. It's really the only way to do it at Stanford. So I knew that when I took the job, and we invited all of those 17 kids to come back. But they had COVID, as you guys know, gave every student athlete an extra year of eligibility. Right. So that entire 16 of the 17 athletes that transferred when I got here had already graduated because they had that extra year of eligibility. So, if you're smart enough to choose Stanford, you're smart enough to stay until you get your undergraduate degree, right? So that's one of the things that really excited me about the job, because there are a lot of people thought it was too challenging of a job and you're just going to lose players and not be able to gain any through the transfer portal. But my thought was, I'm going to have guys for at least 3 years until they graduate. And I like that idea. Now, we got to try and hang on to them for that 4th year because that's when they become really productive. Right. But I like the model, and it's what we're kind of betting on. So I hope it works.
Me too, man. I agree with all of that, and think it's something that is. I think it's going to work, and just the way you look at it, the way you bought into it, it's going to be fun to see. And quite frankly, I think it needs to, just to keep reiterating that and just prove the NCAA, the collegiate model, all of that can still coexist in this world that we're kind of in here. Let's dive in one more position group before we move to the defense. The offensive line, obviously we all know how important that position group is. How if some of those guys continue to, just embrace this challenge and excelled as leaders for you up front?
Yeah, we got Levi Rogers is back. He was the most experienced guy going into last year. He played center for us. And then we got a bunch of other guys. We played 3 freshmen, two true freshmen, which is kind of unheard of, Luke Baklenko and Simi. And, I loved how those guys really developed. Jake Michaela was a redshirt freshman. So, it's trial by fire a little bit when you're that young, because you're going in competing against guys on the other side of the ball that are men, or at least look like men, and big, strong, physical guys. And you just came from high school. So it was challenging at times last year, but that experience is vital. They know what it looks like. They know what it feels like. Now they had a great off season, and they're going to have a real chance to grow this year. So we got all of our guys coming back up front. We're excited about that group. They're not there yet, but they're trending in the right direction. And we're excited to see, what an extra year of experience where it gets them.
Coach, to be honest, Mac and I are both offensive people. Mac was an offensive lineman. I shot 3.
He is too.
I know.
He understands.
I shot 3s, didn't play a lot of defense. So, but we do need to talk some defense. And you return your top 4 tacklers, and you guys on your website, you have director of offense, director of defense. So I'm assuming that's your OCDC. And Bobby April is your director of defense, which honestly, it kind of sounds cooler than the offensive coordinator.
It does sound cooler. Very, very
cool.
Cool.
What do you want to be defensively? What are some of the things that you want to stand out about your defense?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, we got to be able to stop the run and be good on third downs. Now, obviously, those are things that we can improve on this year. Again, we were a really young team, and we had some really good moments last year. But all in all, we know there's great potential for growth. We have Tristan Sinclair coming back, one of the best leaders I've ever been around as a linebacker, and Gathan Bernadelle alongside him. David Bailey's an edge guy that's we feel is really talented, and then our corners, Colin Wright, we feel is as good as anybody in the country, and Zarn Manley's another corner, and we got some young players. They're really hungry. I'm not leaving some guys off, but the guys that we really feel are going to develop this year and help us to be better. But the proof's in the pudding. So all the off-season work has been great. We've been battling against each other in the spring. We'll do it again in fall camp, but we're excited about our defense.
Yeah. There you go. Last one for you, Coach. We've asked everybody this. It's always intriguing to just hear the answers, because we've got some new technology coming to the sidelines with iPads that we will have video, and you can see all of that right then and there. I can no longer lie to my offensive line coach about what I saw and what he saw. We're going to see it together. And then the helmet communication to the player from the coach. And I'm sure you're going to be the guy talking to your quarterback. What do you like about those? How will that change your kind of approach for game day? And just what does all that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, so I had the video as a high school coach. We were able to utilize that, and it's good. A lot of times, kind of like what you were saying, you're pulling players over and saying, "That's not what you said. Look at this." But no, I think it's good. That one's hopefully we'll be able to utilize it in a positive way and make some adjustments. So excited about that. And then I really like the coach to player communication. So it allows you to so much of our game in college has been formations and motions, and then of course you got to come up with signals for that and have a way to be able to do it fast. Now with the communication, I can just say it to them, and they're able to call it if we're in the huddle. And so I think it's going to be great. Obviously, it's going to limit people trying to steal signs and signals, which I think is great. I was a huge proponent of us doing that. Kind of wish we would have done it a few years back, but at least we're there now. We did it in spring, and it was, for the most part, it was seamless. There is some getting used to it, but I think they're both really great changes, and excited to utilize both of them.
Yeah, and I think we always talk about how the players have to adjust, how do they do this and that, but now this is a real challenge for you, just how that communication will go. Have you talked to NFL guys? Have you just experimented a bunch in spring? Because I feel like it's one of those things where, and I'm sure it's different per quarterback who you have in there, leading the way, but is it a lot of information? Is it just a little information, corrective? Like, how do you think best to utilize that?
That's a great question. So it shuts off at 15 seconds on the play clock.
Gotta
right?
be quick.
So thank God, right? Could you imagine coaches trying to coach up their quarterback? That's a ball snap. So I have talked to a couple of guys that I've coached that played in the NFL and asked them what works best. They gave me some great feedback. So luckily it shuts off at 15 seconds. You got to get the information in by then. If you're a fast tempo team, you're going to be able to talk to the quarterback probably pretty close to where the ball snapped. If you huddle, you'll have enough time to get the play in. So there'll be some adjustments, and there's a rhythm to it, and all those things. They got to get used to hearing your voice, and of course they can't talk back, which is probably good, But it'll be exciting. There'll be a little bit of a learning adjustment for sure, but we have practiced it, and we have talked to people that have utilized it in the past, which is
Mac, these are Stanford guys, so they'll figure it out pretty quickly, I have to assume. Coach, this is my last one for you. It's just very simple. Okay, I was looking up your information here, and it said you ran a 4.7 40 at the NFL Combine back in the day. How close would you come to that now? Like, what are we running now?
Yeah, it's a good question. We can go out and test that if you'd like to. But I think I'm setting it at somewhere between 5.4, 5.7.
Wow.
With the caveat that I could easily pull one or both hamstrings.
With the caveat that injury
That's
is
pretty
possible.
Impressive, though. That's pretty
I
impressive.
like that, Coach. Okay, I see you.
That's right. Yeah, man, he's a speed demon. Coach, this was awesome. Great to meet you. Great to see you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks again to Coach Taylor for joining us here on the podcast. I love talking about Coach Taylor. I'm talking Friday Night Lights.
Come on.
Love that.
Texas forever, baby.
Yeah, that's right, man. Okay, so let's dive into Stanford. As we mentioned, went 3-9 last year. Can they build on that? They return a lot, Mac. They return 85% of their offensive production, but they did lose some important guys, to the portal. The portal giveth in the portal taketh. They lost that big tight end they had to Georgia. So it can be tough, especially at a place like Stanford. But they returned some really good pieces in Manor, who you talked about the Colorado game. That guy was ridiculous in that game. He's a piece you can build around at wide receiver, get him the ball. He can make some things happen.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. And one guy that we actually didn't talk about, Elijah Brown, the young quarterback coming in, that our intern here, shout out Nick again, rumored to be the most important recruit since Andrew Luck.
Matter day guy.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. You bring him in, you build on that. Does he jump up early in, this quarterback race? Who knows? They brought in a couple of guys. We talked about that with Coach. Who ends up being, the guy will be fascinating to see, and how much momentum, does that create? So it's going to be fascinating to see, KG. I think the number right now, 3.5 for the schedule. It is a brutal schedule. It's a tough schedule. I don't know. It's one of those, you got to prove it to me. I think I'm going under, which stinks to say. I hate that. It's such a low number there, but this is tough. It's going to be interesting to see, how do you round this thing out? But I got to tell you, I love talking with Coach. I mean, I thought he was fantastic. Coach Troy Taylor there. I think all the things that you already said about understanding the program. This is a developmental place. We're going to take our time. We're going to build these guys up. And by the time they leave, we hope that they're 4 and 5 stars. And just the way he views his family, I mean, very Dabo Sweeney-ish, which, as y'all know, that's where I was made under that kind of mold. And, just how much he loves his family, values that time, and with his staff as well. He's a really cool guy, and I'm grateful that he's in the ACC now.
Yeah, we're rooting for him for sure. And I think the big thing, Mac, when you look at this schedule and what Stanford needs to improve upon is the defense. Yeah. They ranked 129th in total defense last season in FBS. So, look, it can only go up, but you have to improve defensively. And then you add in the travel. I mean, that's the big question. We talked with Coach Wilcox at Cal and Coach Taylor at Stanford about this. And I think both of them are saying, look, it's a little more travel. We're going to figure it out. Yeah. We really don't know the impact it will have until we play the season. When you look at, they open with TCU, which I think we'll find out a lot in that first game. Cal Poly, and then this stretch of at Syracuse and at Clemson, no bye week in between. I don't know if you just stay out here or what. Virginia Tech at home, and then at Notre Dame, and then SMU at home. Like, this is, don't brutal. Laugh, Mac.
Well, I'm laughing. We're just staying out there. We're going from the top of the coast to the middle of the coast. Just stay, just enjoy the low country, flying to Charleston, get a little beach action. Hang out there. And I also was laughing. I think you said 129th, right? I think there's 130 FBS teams, so they could technically go down one. You said the only way is up. There is one.
You're not endearing us. You're not endearing us to Stanford.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. We'll see. The schedule doesn't do any of your favor, Stanford. Welcome to the league. Have fun. Great to see you. Can't wait to see what you do there, and hope we get to go out there and visit maybe during the season. Against SMU, against Notre Dame, whatever. That could be really fun. We'll see what happens. It's at Notre Dame, so excuse me. We won't be going to that game. But we'll see. And KG kind of gave you guys a lead on tomorrow. Cal, we're just staying we are staying on the left side. We're going over there.
We're
not
coming back. To California, Matt.
That's right. A good California trip. So we're going to hang out there. We've got Cal tomorrow. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you, Brian, for setting this up. Thank you, Coach Taylor, for your time. Very grateful as always, and looking forward to continue to build this relationship and get the Stanford Cardinal rolling in the ACC, baby. So that's it from us, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Go over to YouTube, subscribe, jump on this show with us. Really appreciate you, Stanford fans. Welcome to the family. And, of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts as well. Rate, review, subscribe. We greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.